Hey, Rochelle, welcome to the podcast. Sober Not Sorry. Thank you so much for being here with us today. You're currently in Bali, and we'll probably get to why you are currently there. But can you just firstly share a little bit about who you are, why you felt you fell into alcohol addiction, and the moment that you stepped into rehab?
Sure. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm excited to have this chat. So I basically the story goes somewhere along the lines of had some stuff happen as a child, some trauma stuff that I believe kind of wired my brain to a certain way. Childhood stuff, including all different things, I guess, that kind of make us we are and shape us into our teenage years. Then I think going into living as a teenager and school and sexuality and identity and all this stuff that I believed was shamed upon and not accepted and feeling like isolated and the world was against me, although having a lot of friends and having a really social life, I still battled a lot. And I think once I started drinking and taking drugs, it was something I started to use first as fun, as I was always, a party girl and loved it and loved socializing. And that's where I felt accepted. School, I didn't feel accepted. So many at home, I didn't really feel accepted, but partying, I did. I was good at it. I was good at making friends. So, you know, I think I started to use it more to silence the pain, as I started to really find out who I was. And yeah, just it took a lot of pain away because I was numbing from, early teens.
Yeah, did it give you that confidence to just show up in the world when you didn't really know how?
I don't know about confidence. It just kind of, oh, good question. This is good. I don't think it, yeah, maybe, gave me a bit of confidence, but the main thing I liked about it was the feeling, like it kind of made everything go away. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I was like, okay, yeah, this is really good. This is fun.
Yeah. So it was your way of not feeling, it was your way of tapping out to the reality of what was going on inside of you. So you sort of reached for that alcohol and found that real, I guess, reprieve to show up in the world and not have to worry about, yeah, just to tap out, numb out.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that as soon as I started, like, you know, growing up, and it started to take its real, like, effect on me as I got older, because the fun kind of stopped and then the addiction started, where I believe I didn't want to live without it, because all the outside noise of life was, a lot stronger than I could handle.
Did you ever, like, do you remember the moment or a time in your life when you realized that drinking alcohol and doing hard drugs was taking more from you than it was giving?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, when it became a problem, like, oh God, my life was destructive, like riding off cars, ending up in hospital most weekends, then the mental health, like, all different places I was in and out of. I think that was taking away from me because I didn't know how to live normal life, because it was just this destructive world. And I didn't know any other way. And I didn't really have any good role models to show. No, I shouldn't say that. I mean, like, I didn't have good, like, no one knew what to do with me. I was in the too hard basket. Like, I had multiple diagnoses that didn't really help me. I was told I had this, and this, and that was it, like a life prison, like, sentence. It was like, you've got this. And it just made me feel more fucked up than I already felt. Like, I already felt isolated, dumb. I was hurting myself a lot. I hated myself because I felt like the world was really hating on me, and I just didn't feel accepted. And, I was different. I reacted to things differently. I behaved differently. And it took me like, what, 25 years to realize that's a fucking blessing in disguise. And my uniqueness is what's made me who I am today, and, the woman of my dreams, really. So, yeah, it took a lot of life, away from me. It ruined a lot in my life. So, yeah.
Can we, before we go to the person that you are today and the one I can tell that you're really proud of and you're very successful, can you
Yeah.
take me back and explain what life would look like day to day for you when you were in that struggle, in that addiction, when you were getting things thrown at you and you were put in all these different baskets and that was sort of confusing you even more and probably blowing up your life even more? Can you explain to me what your day to day was looking like? Like, what were you doing for work then? How were you showing up each day? What were your friendships like?
I always had good friendships and a lot of people that cared about me, because it was like I had these two contradicting sides. There was like this destructive girl who hated herself and hated the world, and, that really darkness, that I didn't know how to control, because now I know that darkness can also lead to a lot of amazing things if you know how to use it. But then there was this life of the party, you know, loved people, had these solid friendships, best friends, cousins, mentor. Like, it was like this, who I wanted to be and who I kept tearing down. So, yeah, I think my day to day was, I had really good people around me, but I was so lost. And the thing with my family, home was a really horrible place, because it wasn't their fault. They didn't really know how to kind of deal with a sick child. And I think that them blaming the drugs and alcohol, because it would have looked like that. It would have been like, well, she's, riding off cars and doing all this crazy stuff and hurting herself and ending up in hospital and doing all these crazy things because of the drugs and alcohol. But they weren't the problem. I was the problem. I was using them to be able to even, deal with life day to day. So I think that they just weren't really educated on why. And it was really hard to understand my diagnosis, because, they just said you've got trauma, complex trauma, you've got borderline personality, you've got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got, like bulimia, you've got eating disorder, you've got drug addiction and alcohol addiction. It's like, well, which one do we work on? But it's like, no, no, no. It's learn to love yourself. The beliefs that I had in my head about who I was, I hated myself, and the thoughts that were all driving these horrible things. Like, your personality is made up of your behaviors, your thoughts, and your actions. And they were all just so wired negatively. So, yeah, like every day I was like, cut it, like, I'm just going to be raw here, but I was hurting myself because I hated myself. I was, anything not to feel. And I think it was either in like mental health clinics, whether it was drugs or alcohol or eating disorders, they were all the side effects. So it was like, let's fix this. And then this would change to this. And then this would change to this. So, yeah, I think that I spent a lot of times in and out of places, um, hurting a lot, and just, yeah, just doing crazy things just because I just didn't know how to be.
Thank you for sharing that. And when you look back now on your family, and we're going to touch on this a lot around the stigma with drugs and alcohol, and how we don't necessarily look at the person as a whole, we just look at the addiction and then we judge
Yeah.
that part of the addiction.
Yeah,
What
that's
was
it.
a transition for you, Rochelle, like from going from such a place of, I guess, little self-worth and harming yourself and doing really random shit, to then just going, I need to get better. I need to get well. Can you explain that transition for me and how that unfolded? And was that and individual effort? Was there outside efforts? Can you just help me or just share with me and unpack how
Yeah,
that unfolded?
absolutely. So when I was talking before about, those two people in me, like there was this little glimpse that would come out of hope of like, I don't want to be this way, but I simply just don't know how else to be. So, I was having fun after like a really bad, suicide attempt. I'm just going to be open here. I actually had to have 5 hours of therapy a day. So daily, I had to sit with someone and just like unpack everything. And it was through this life coach, if you will, that made me see that I had through the darkness, it was like I, have, you know, um, what am I going to say? Passion for creating. We worked it out. We unpacked it like with that much therapy, it's like you're going to come up with something. So she looked at me one day, and I tell this story because it's such a pivotal moment in my life. I would be on the chair like this. I had everything under the sun. I was like barely looking at her, and she asked me one question, and I remember it so vividly. She said, "What do you want to do with your life?" It was the first time I literally sat up and looked her directly in the eyes and said anything but this. So like I wanted to change, I just didn't know how. So through that, I enrolled in fashion school. And when I designed, it was like the first time I actually felt like me, Rochelle Gregory. It was like, whoa, like all my issues paused. I was just this like mechanism that was just like creating fashion. Like I loved uni, but when, it was time to turn the sewing machine off and, I had to go home, it was back to that destructiveness. I didn't, when I wasn't creating, I didn't know who I was. I was feeling pain. So, I ended up going to in and out of clinics again. Like I remember they said to me, I think I had an overdose or something, one of the many things. They were like, you have to go back into the clinic. And I said, I will go I will go for an inpatient stay if I can still wake up and go to uni every day. So they said, look, you can't attend full time. So this is another thing that got taken away from me, from my mentor. You can't attend uni full time, but you can do it half time. Like you can do it part time. So uni did take 5 years instead of 3, but my dedication to want to keep going and still living in like the hospital was incredible. So I think that really wanting to, you know, focus on my studies and be someone else was, that was my story. And it was until I gave up, hard drugs and alcohol. It was always that, doing really well, hitting rock bottom, doing really well, hitting, it was always this. But do you know what? Every time I came back stronger and I came back with a different awareness of myself in the world. So my story isn't just like a success story. It's like, no, this was like for years. And my dedication to not giving up ever and always wanting to get to that next level. And so, yeah, I think just that one more time. I'm going to get this one more time. Like, yeah, I just think it finally hit. And that's when my life completely changed. But, when people do say things now, it does, if people comment on like that stuff, it's kind of like it hits a little bit of a sore spot because it's like, you don't know much about this.
Yeah, the courage that it takes to continue to try, and we're knocking ourselves back down. That's the problem. It's not like, the world's not, well, the world can knock us down without a doubt, but when it comes to getting support and getting help for our
Yeah,
addiction, we continue to knock ourselves down. And a lot of women, as you've just explained then, Rochelle, it can take
yeah,
years to get to that final day one, that final breakthrough, that final, I feel like I've got this. Yes, you've always got to do the work, but to feel like I've got this. One of my favorite sayings, the only time you'll ever fail is if you give up on trying. And that's
yeah.
exactly what you've shared with us. I want you just to explain to us, please,
Mhm.
because you now have this like world-renowned fashion brand. So I really want to share that part because I think it's really powerful just to show people what's possible. And I've got a couple of questions for you. Number one, did you always feel inside you from a young age that there was something more for you?
Oh my God, I actually don't know. I think I was uh, in what way? Like something like as in work? I mean,
As
like a
in,
passion?
yeah, as in like a niggle, something that there's more for you, there's something bigger out there, not knowing what that is.
Okay.
Like a
So
different
yeah.
purpose. Yes, like your creativity to me is like your purpose, your passion, your thing. It's something that has saved you, but you
So
didn't know that for a long time.
no, no, and it's funny because as a child, I was that person. I was like, all my cousins, we all laugh about it now. I was always making up random games. Like, okay, you have to jump on this and touch that. And like, my mind was so creative as a kid, like, always. Through school, I didn't understand anything with words, only with pictures. Like, I loved making things creating with my hand. But as I got older and I started to not feel accepted from the world and my learning difficulties, my sexuality, all that got really darkened. And when I say that, maybe I had hope of like doing all these things, but when I kept feeling like I was told, you aren't for this world, or you're so different, or you're the black sheep, or because I don't know, like I didn't know many gay people then, I was never around them. I All my friends knew how to go to class and get a task done. I didn't. Like, I didn't, I laughed that the teacher would speak another language. Like, I just really couldn't learn. Um, and then being told I was dumb, and then I don't know, I feel like all that really ruined that, girl that had these huge aspirations for life. I think that that all got taken away from me because of the way I used to start to think of how I used to think of myself. So when I was with that life coach, when I was telling you earlier about getting 5 hours of, help a day, I didn't remember making a jacket for that party that my friends had to tell me about later on. I didn't remember ripping up jeans for that party. Like, we had to do a project at fashion school, and I had to interview my friends, and they were all like, "Remember you did this?" I was like, "No." I was like, "That's what happened to me." Like, all that got robbed from me. All my happy memories of doing what I was probably always meant to do, be creative in some way or some shape, got taken away from me because of, yeah, how I started to view myself and go down that, mental health world.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so powerful because it was always within you, but it just got darkened for a lot of years, and then you had to fight really hard to bring that out of yourself again. Let's talk about life at the moment
Yeah.
and what you're doing with your creativity at the moment
Yeah.
and how you have been able to turn your trauma into something that feels really good for you and turning away from alcohol and hard drugs and yeah, putting that into your creativity.
Yeah. So, after fashion school, it took me like the last year to actually start winning awards and stuff. Like kind of alcohol, it finally clicked. Like, I still had tutors for everything, and I still was really not great at learning even in fashion school, but on that 5th year, everything just clicked. And, I almost got an Alexander Wang internship. Like, all these things started happening, and I was like, "You know what? Like, I missed out on one other person for this dream internship in New York, and like that was out of thousands of applicants." So all these things that were happening started to change my belief system of, hey, I just got chosen, number one to showcase my designs at Melbourne Fashion Week. Like, all these crazy things. Maybe I do have a talent. Maybe, so I started to feel like my passion was, my passion, and also keep that I kept trying even with tutors, was starting to gift me. So I think when I didn't get that internship, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this rejection as motivation. I'm going to create my own brand. I'm going to create a universe where, you know, limitations and all these things that just don't exist, this powerful fucking universe. And as I started to create this universe of these unstoppable, you know, superheroes was a huge inspiration. I used to create cages because I felt caged for so long in my life. And I used all these things that had tortured me. Like a really bad situation happened and I was in like a high security psych ward. And it was like 3 or 4 days of like this glass dome with like five of the sickest people like in Australia. Like it was really, and I just remember feeling caged and the nurses watch you. Like you literally feel like a caged animal. It's horrible. And I remember, yeah, and that was the first kind of inspiration of my collections. Like I just created cages and made these crazy designs. And like ironically, creating these cages is what set me free because it's like really like when you create something tangible, it's also releasing, you know, an emotion in a way. Um, and I think that all this stuff was fueling, as I started to create this unstoppable universe in Rocky Rafaela, I started to become that person. So I was using pain and, all these negative, dark things and turning them into power and motivation and, this energy that I can't really explain. But through doing that, I started to become this empowering person that would not say no, and I would just jump on a plane and go for it, and then next minute I'm with the biggest celebrities in the world dressing them, and I'm like, "How did I get here?" It's like, I know how I got here, I just didn't stop. Like, it's, you know, this power that I had that I was like, "You're not gonna fuck with me because I've spent, the last 10 years hurting myself and, I'm here to fucking shine and I'm gonna show you." Like I had that really strong mentality and it just worked. And even if
Um,
it didn't, like I would just do the actions and eventually it would work.
so you become unstoppable, I think. And you know what? It just comes back to once you start to believe in yourself, like even though you didn't get that internship, you were close. And it's like you believe in yourself. And the more you believe in yourself, I really do believe the universe gifts us for that when we open our heart
Yeah.
and our mind to it. And we keep saying yes, because I think overcoming addiction,
Yeah.
and you can do that and in a way that you have been all the things that you've been able to overcome in your life,
Yeah.
it just gives you that such a like an empowering feeling that you can do anything and you'll take on anything.
Yeah. And also just like changing the perception. Like I didn't get that internship, but that wasn't the internship I was meant to get. I was meant to start the brand. I was meant to do another path. So it was like I learned to kind of start to see that what was put in front of me was almost like a challenge. And it was like it's up to me on how I'm going to, you know, deal with it.
Yeah.
So it was kinda like I started to love challenges and failures. No, no, you can't get into this store. Okay, I'll fly over and get into 5 bigger stores. That was my mentality. And that's I think that's where I started to really kind of learn a really good mindset in business, in personal life. It was just, yeah, just rewiring all this fucking shit that was, like, leading me to the ground. Like, oh god, the amount of times I was like, "I should be dead." It's like, "No, no, no, you've got a bigger purpose here. You have a bigger purpose."
Yeah. And you're able to channel all that energy and darkness into something that became such a gift for you. And what I want to touch on now and chat about is like the stigma around getting healthy and getting well, because what you've shared for me is a girl that has overcome addiction. She's stepped into her power. She's living a healthy, well, and successful life. And
Yeah.
yet the outside world still sees someone that's stepped into rehab or someone that's overcome addiction, and that is sometimes what you is always related back to you. When I
Okay.
say that to you,
I'm laughing because I've got a story for you, but we'll keep going.
no, perfect. Because I'm going to say, how does that feel for you? How does that show up in your life? And what can you share with us around that? Because at the end of the day, you and I share our stories to help others. So
Yeah.
let's unpack that. Let's unpack the stigma around addiction.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, it's crazy because I just feel like a lot of people are ignorant and, narrow-minded when it comes to what rehab actually means. So I've started seeing a girl, like dating a girl, and obviously people are jealous, and I've heard a few things, and someone has gone up to someone and said the girl that whoever is dating is bad news. And I think the other girl was like, why or whatever. And she was like, did you know she's been to rehab?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Like, why start there? Why stop there? Like, I've been to rehab, psych wards, I've been to trauma places. Like, the list goes on. A shorter list is where I haven't been.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's all over fucking Instagram. Like, I wear it as a badge of honor. I'm not ashamed of it. It's just, this is what's wrong with the world. People like this that view healing, as a negative thing. Like, for me, that's courage to go to rehab, to want to change your life, to want to recreate who you are. Like, that's a fucking warrior. That's not looked down upon. Like, what is wrong with these girls?
Yeah. And I'm sorry that that has happened to you, because it does sort of you have to take a step back for a little mini, don't you, and unpack it all and be like, why is that affecting me? And why are people still throwing that out there? Because I feel so liberated and empowered in my sobriety, and you feel so empowered and liberated by, overcoming your addiction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, why, when we can stand up and share our stories, do people still feel like they want to take us down?
Because it's not about us, it's about them.
Yeah.
So they are this girl is obviously commenting on trying to make a negative, what do you call, like, a negative, what's she doing?
To put
It's
you
gone
down.
blank. Yeah, she's putting me down because she's not out there fixing her own problems, like, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah.
I know what you're saying, and this comes up a lot when I coach women. Often they get a lot of pushback around their sobriety and overcoming addiction. And I
Yeah.
will always say that usually will come from a place of someone that's not necessarily happy in their own life, or they're very envious because you have overcome that and you're stepping into your power and you're stepping into
Yeah.
your self-worth. And you're
Yeah.
so right. It is a representation of the one that's saying those bad things and trying to bring you down, more than it is a representation on yourself. And I think that's something that is really important to share, because for you and I, we're very empowered in our sobriety, and we're able to take those comments and pretty much just like hit them straight back into their court and say, that's your shit, not ours. But for
Yeah,
women,
well, yeah, it's a projection. It's like, I'm not doing the work, you are, I'm gonna put you down for it. It's like, it's just, yeah, it's quite ignorant if you ask me. It's
yeah,
like,
very,
we need to educate these people, though. I don't wanna put them down either. It's like, if this is what we're doing and it's happening in all areas, if we're name calling and, trying to put people down, and, like, I'm the one that they should be looking up to, not these people on Instagram or, like, that they're doing. It's like, it's just such a fake world. It's like, who are you actually looking up to? And, it's like the people that go and face their demons, the people that are actually wanting to do the inner work, like, that's the scariest thing. Like, and do you know what the funniest thing is? The girls that they're scrolling on Instagram wanting to dress like, I'm the one that dressed these celebrities. So it's kind of like, you're paying out me and calling me unhinged, but you're actually following people that I've gone and personally dressed. It's
yeah.
like, the irony and the, like, it's crazy. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you are successful and you are empowered. And I think that's exactly what we're saying. And that's where those conversations, they need to happen, because women need to understand that going and getting support for any type of addiction is a very courageous step. And then stepping out into the real world, and I'd love to chat to you about this, stepping back out into the real world without that mask of alcohol and hard drugs, and showing up authentic
Yeah.
as you, is
Yeah.
something that is really, really hard to do in the beginning. And we don't know what life's going to look like, especially when we've done those things our whole life. And that is how all we know. All we know is to show up like that. It's like putting this mask on and being like, here I am. You take that mask off, you are raw, you are vulnerable, and you have to step out into that world. And I think that's what people need to understand. There's so many steps to this journey. And now I want to go into that for you. Like, what did that look like for you, and how did that feel for you?
I just want to kind of just step back and say one more thing about addiction quickly, just to, maybe people that don't know about it might want to be a little bit educated, but no one chooses, you know, to have an addiction. No one wants to go to drugs and alcohol because it's fun and rely on it. It's like, it's something, and I don't know, maybe a lot of addicts, or like people that struggle with substances, it all stems from further down, like childhood or traumas or things that have happened, and it's actually rewired them to not be able to cope in the real world, which is sad amongst itself. So to be looked down for something you can't control, it's like, do we say someone's bad news because they've got cancer, or something like that? It's like addiction's a serious thing. It's like, oh, and I think we just really need to see that no one chooses, to do these things. Um, and going into what you've just asked me, I think, when say the question again.
What did life look and feel like when you did start stepping out into the real world, with inverted commas, into the real world without having those crutches of alcohol and hard drugs for you?
Yeah, it was incredible, and it wasn't like everything was like, woo, fireworks. It was like the universe almost looked at my situation and said, "Okay, now that you have given up the one thing that you've used to numb yourself and not deal with your inner work, um, we are now going where you're ready now." So it was like all these things kept coming into my life. Like last year was the most incredible year. Like, I had so many issues in different relationships with everything. Like, you know, dating, relationships, like all these things kept coming into my life. And that's when I had to go and do deeper work. So a lot of last year was about going within and being so uncomfortable. And I was going, to retreats and working on shame about my sexuality. I was going to do emotional healing in the bushes of like, I just went hard and I challenged myself, and I was so uncomfortable, but fuck, the universe did really gift me. Like, I, due to my bad behavior at school and also learning difficulties, I actually got asked to leave. And this was a very, you know, kind of prestigious school where they don't really expel you. So I was asked to leave, and that, and then last year I got an email saying, "We love what you've done with your life. You're a huge inspiration. Do you want to come back and talk to the students at school?" I literally rang my best friend. I was like, "This isn't real." Like, it took me a day to actually believe the email was real, because it was such a shock. It was like, fuck, like, look where you've become, you know? And keep in mind, I was always healing, and, the whole up and down. It wasn't like drugs, and I stopped drugs and alcohol and boom. It was like I'd reach success, I'd crash. So it was like, but then finally when I gave it up, it was like, I think the gifts came. So the work was way before, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and then I got asked to do, incredible design jobs that, like, were just like dreamlike, and things just started happening. I started having, relationships that lasted longer than a month. Because before that I was pushing everyone away and I had so many problems there. So yeah, life just became really good. And now, also like being able to go out till 3 a.m. and not actually thinking that I did drugs or alcohol. It's like, staying up on New Year's recently till 3 a.m. Being like, it's just crazy. It's like I never, ever, ever thought I could or would want to do this. Like without drugs and alcohol, I'm like, life's boring. Don't like it. I don't want to go out. What the fuck would I go out and talk to who? How boring. But it changes. They're just what you've been programmed to think. So yeah, life is incredible. And I don't want to say never because you just don't know what happens, but I do not think about ever going back. Yeah, it's like I'm very strong and confident with, my life today. And yeah, I just feel like that would be insane.
Yeah. And you can see now that by overcoming your addiction that you are gifted and you do have to do the work. It's not like you just say,
No,
I'm going to stop drinking or I'm going to stop doing drugs and then all of a sudden you're gifted with these things. The more
no.
you work, the more you're gifted. The more you go within, the more you're gifted. And that's what you're trying to explain to people. Can you,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, can you give someone or anyone that's listening advice if they're afraid of showing up in their work in this world as their true authentic self? And I think that's what a lot of us are afraid of, is just being us in this world. We feel like we've got to go in this little box and be this person that society tells us to be when we're bursting to get out, but we don't know how. What
Yeah, well,
like
I think my story was, being so unfit for the mold in every fucking way possible that now it's like the best thing ever. Now I'm like shining because I don't fit the mold, you know? And I think you need to really, if you want to, stop drinking and or stop whatever, or change who you are, or anything related to being someone else or not happy with who you are, you really need to go in and acknowledge what the actual problem is. Like what actually, why are you picking up the drink? Why? Like there's something, and you might not know. I didn't. Oh God, it took me how many years to realize so many different things. But the first step is being aware that you actually want to know what it is. And there are so many people now who can help you, undig it. Like I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have that life coach. As soon as someone said 5 hours of therapy a day, I was like, oh my God, I hate this. Like, but it ended up being the most incredible pivotal point of my life. So it's like when you do the things you don't want, that's where the magic is, right? When you do the hard work, that's where you get gifted. So I think my advice would just be, and also the people that are throwing stones at you and jealousy, like I get it a lot because I was the dumb one at school and now I'm, doing all these amazing things. But nothing else matters unless you really love yourself. Like it sounds so cliche, but I think when you can look in the mirror finally, when I hated myself and, you know, bashed myself and did all these horrible things for years, and I can finally look in the mirror and be my biggest inspiration, my own inspiration, and truly love who I am, that's when you can fucking own the world because you become so strong in your skin. And yeah, sure, when people say, "Oh, she's unhinged," it hits me a bit because my mental health has been, I've felt crazy because of my mental health. So even now, when these girls are saying, "Oh, she's bad news" or something, for a moment, I'm like, "What the fuck?" And I get angry, but it's like, well, look what I've done with my life. Like I am so happy, and it's sad because no, these people that are calling me names aren't doing the work or even acknowledging that they have a problem. So it's just about really taking a moment and being like, hold on, these words are not, going to affect me. Like I am now have created this fucking empowering woman. And that's on them. It's actually got nothing to do with me. It's literally on them. So, yeah, I don't know. I just guess all of that is what I would share.
Yeah, yeah. And we've just got to be brave, don't we?
That's it. It's bravery. Like, be uncomfortable. Work out why you're uncomfortable. I'm still uncomfortable a lot of the times. And you know what? I made it sound easy. Like the start of going out and not drinking, it was so uncomfortable. But every time it would get less and less. Like I'd only go out to 11 because everyone was so annoying and I couldn't handle people. But then I was like, well, who am I hanging out with? Now I'm with my best mates till like 3 a.m. having the time of my life. So it's about making different decisions as well and smart choices. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And you've said getting uncomfortable, and that is what it's uncomfortable at the beginning. It really is, and it's icky and it's messy and it's like it's everything that you're just not used to because you're used to having those feelings and tapping out with alcohol or drugs. So it's
Yeah.
showing up and saying uncomfortable and feeling uncomfortable is actually a good thing, because what comes from being uncomfortable? So much comes from stepping in, being uncomfortable, getting out of your comfort zone, and then you
Yeah.
are rewarded for it. And I think that's what we need people to know. And
Yeah.
that's what, overcoming addiction is about. It's like, shit, I don't know how to show up, but I'm going to
Yeah.
have a anyway.
Yeah, that's crazy because I so strongly also identified with the party girl. Like I was the most wasted. I was the one up for date. Like I could literally do anything. And I'm like, well, when I go out, who am I then? Like, because I'm the loud, and it's like, no, you just like find who you actually are without all that. Yeah. So the identity thing at the start was like, oh, I'm not fun anymore. It's like, no, you're actually better and everyone wants to be around you because you know, you're not a gamble of are you gonna abuse someone, run in front of traffic, or are you actually gonna be the life of the party? Like it was, you know. So it's just about, go see, work it out. That's all you can
Yeah,
do.
yeah. And take your time. I think getting to know yourself again when you're not drinking alcohol
Yeah.
is, it takes time to understand who you are without it. And I think allowing that time and not having those expectations on top of yourself to either just be at home and no longer live life because being sober is boring, or going out feeling like you have to still be that party girl and pushing to be that person, and that no longer aligns. It's like, just go out, see how things feel. As you said, you had a look around and you went, well, who are these people I'm hanging out with anyway? Because often when you take alcohol and drugs out of your life, you realize that sometimes you're doing those things because it is trying to have a good time around those people. Then you come back and you're like going without alcohol and drugs, and you're like, oh, who do I want to hang out with now? And who do I
Yeah.
connect with and make those
Yeah.
really good connections with? And you
Yeah.
can spend all the time in the world with those people.
Oh my God, your like time is so precious. It's like, oh, I would never hang out with you now. It's like, no, no, no. Like I have my fucking people and like no other time. I've got my people, my work, and no time for like, who you used to probably hang out with. So it's like quality. You get that time back.
You
Not
do.
wasting it out with other people
Yeah.
lost and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And I know everyone can't see you, but when I sit across from you, and we had a chat maybe a month or so ago before you come on the potty, and I just really connected with you. And I think I can just see the passion in you now and the happiness when you're sharing your story. And it takes guts as well to share your story. And you
Yeah.
are in you know, the limelight, I guess, and for you to be able to just share your story. And I can see that it is in the hope that other people have an understanding around addiction and what that looks like, and that you
Mm.
can turn addiction into something really, really cool. And that is exactly what you've done. So
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time to be with me and with my audience. And congratulations from the bottom of my heart for being able to do what you've done and continue to show up as Rochelle and
Yeah.
not Rochelle that needs alcohol and drugs. I think really brave and really courageous. So I want to, I feel really honoured to have you in this space and really proud of you. So thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you for having me on the podcast to share my story. Like, I think we need to start inspiring people and educating them on, healing and, rehab and stuff like that and getting help, because I got help and you need it. There's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Yeah,
So, yeah, thank you for allowing me to have the space to do so.
you're very welcome. Thanks, Rochelle.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Dom. Perfect. I'll just
Yeah,
stop.
that was good.
Are you sure?